To speak to Professor Curran, who's a professor of cybersecurity at Ulster University. Great to have you back on the show, Professor. How are you getting on?
Good, Greg. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. So we're being told that people in border areas could be affected by the new UK emergency alert system this Sunday, obviously because the cross-border people with Northern Irish phones and what have you. So what is actually happening on Sunday, Kevin?
Yeah, on Sunday at 3:00, everyone with a 4G and a 5G phone in the UK will receive an emergency alert from the government. Okay, so it'll be, in comes a warning with a loud siren-like sound or vibration lasting about 10 seconds, and then up on screen will come, of course, in this case, saying this is a test of emergency alerts, a new government service. In a real emergency, follow the instructions. Visit gov.uk for more information. This is a test. You do not need to take any more action.
It sounds very apocalyptic, but presumably it's in case there's floods in Surrey or something and they can target that particular area, or is it in a doomsday scenario like we might see in some Hollywood film, you have been selected?
Well, in some ways it is being repurposed because of the Ukraine war and the state of the world at the moment. But no, this has been in existence in countries like Canada, the Netherlands, Japan. And it is, of course, there for severe flooding or, emergency alerts for things, again, generally to do with the weather or whatever else. But it could, of course, be repurposed for incoming missiles now, whatever else. So, again, it has been used by governments around and they've tested it. And, there is suspicion, of course, about any service like this. But it really is just the cell towers beaming out to all the phones connected. So even if you are roaming, you will get the message again. But in this case.
Yeah, and of course, then you will have a group of people saying, I'm not signing up for this. There's a different motivation. There's no choice in this, is there? It's going to be beamed to your phone whether you want to or not, or is there a choice?
There is a choice. You can turn off the emergency alerts if you wish. Again, so you can go into settings and go to emergency alerts. Just type it in your Android or iPhone, and then you can deselect severe warnings and emergency alerts again. So you can turn it off for whatever reason. Now, a lot of newspapers have picked up that women who are suffering domestic abuse, who might have a second phone, that they're worried that maybe they'll be caught out again. But there's so many scenarios there. Well, why would someone have a phone near their abusive partner? But again, if you're worried about your second phone going off, of course, you can turn it off, then it will not get the message, or you can put it into flight mode. But if you have it on silent and vibrate only, it will sound. So therefore, the only safe way is to turn it off, really, or put it into airplane mode if you're worried about someone finding your second phone through this emergency alert.
Yeah, indeed, of course. And there are other reasons why people might have two phones that they don't want to get caught out either. We're going to see this in the Republic of Ireland as well. I think the EU are expecting all countries to have it. The latest I heard from the communications minister is that they're working on it, and we could see something similar in a year or two in the Republic of Ireland as well.
You could. I mean, to me, it benefits the country again, but because in the future parts of the internet could go down again. So really, we don't get severe weather here, and of course the floodings that we do get here, which destroy homes and everything, but that's gradual again. We generally get the people out in emergency alerts, so we don't have as much. But now that, of course, that the world has changed geopolitically again, that alerts like this could be very, very useful. So I can see all countries going to this because it doesn't cost much, really. And there is no government creep here. They're not gathering information again. Government ministers, cabinet ministers, their partners, their sons, they will also get it. Again, it's just, to me, it's best practice in modern era.
It's not unusual in countries like America, is it, in terms of, where hurricanes are likely or tornadoes are likely. They've lived with this for an awful long time. And I think it's used as well if there's active shooters in the area. And I think also too in missing persons, particularly as it relates to children, I think. But certainly the first examples I've given, it's par for the course in many states in America and other countries as well, of course.
It is indeed. And the one you referred to about the missing kids, that's called the Amber Alert, after a young girl, Amber, was kidnapped. So nowadays, whenever a kid goes missing, they try to block off all the routes, given the time that they were missing. And really, it has led to captures again. So that's a wonderful system in case we're missing a kidnapped child again. But
You wouldn't be concerned about the electromagnetic wave that will sweep across Britain and Northern Ireland with all of these phones going off at the same time. But I believe they're always pinging towers anyway, so I don't think this is going to lead to a particular surge, is it?
We're surrounded by magnetic.
Literally, I'm sitting here.
Your radio is broadcasting every day to have the country, and that's electromagnetic frequency.
I've got a 5G phone sitting in my front pocket. That's pretty worrying, to be honest with you. Every time someone texts me, but yeah.
I don't know. I couldn't believe that rubbish about the virus being transmitted through the airs again. And by the way, again, your 5G is less dangerous too than your 4G. If they're going to turn the 5Gs off, they've got to turn the 4Gs off as well. So.
All right, okay. Any views on the I mean, I've never seen so many celebrities and journalists crying about the loss of a blue tick. I know it's not necessarily in the cyber security area, but actually it kind of is, because I think Elon Musk in removing those ticks has made it more difficult for two-factor authentication to check that I can't say the word. Authentication, two-factor authentication, though you can use a third-party app for it. Any views on his moves and what he's doing there?
That's fine. Only a fraction of people actually, which really surprised me. Less. It was about 2% were using a two-factor authentication. But you're right. SMS authentication is not ideal. It's better than nothing. But of course, there's other ways to authenticate. But the blue tick surprised me. Look at Elon has surprised me. The ship hasn't sunk yet. But the one thing he did right from the start, I thought didn't make sense, was removing the blue tick, because we have to have points of reference in our, pillars of the society as well, to be able to see what's going on online, especially now in a generative AI society where things can be faked so easily. So I never got that move. I believe in his other things. Now, I do think it could be a success, because there is a lot of features being brought in now that you can get on Twitter. But I always thought that was a bad move on his behalf.
What I don't understand too, Kevin, is that, and who am I to question the richest man in the world? But he seems to be very focused on the United States of America. I mean, there are millions of people in African countries, in India, elsewhere, that simply could not afford the subscription that he talks of. So he talks about leveling the playing field and sort of taking this privilege from the rich who perhaps could afford to buy one. But he's excluding so many people in countries that probably need that platform to, fight tyranny or governments or what have you, who simply could not afford the subscription to be able to write longer form messages and to edit them.
You're right. He did try to have, differential pricing throughout the world again, but I mean, it was still a little bit expensive. But look, at the end of the day, he's a business. He's paying large salaries. The salaries of engineers now, they're 100,000 plus, and in America, 200. These are incredible wages he has to pay. He has to keep the lights on some way. It's a business. Look, if there's a better alternative to Twitter, of course, we had Mastodon. Let people move there, So, and again, he's charging now for the API. So he actually he's actually making it into a real business. But he's deeper than the vast majority of people. And he cares deeply about the truth. He really has a chip on his shoulder about truth, again, and he likes to hear debate. So he's doing things which are actually unprecedented.
But there are still he obviously is labeling media as government funding, and I have no problem with that. Actually, I think that's a good thing. That being said, he is walking a line. Tesla, very heavily funded by governments, not just the American government, but the Chinese government. His SpaceX program, very much tied into it. I don't see any labels above his other companies pointing to the fact that he's receiving all of this funding. And then in the irony of ironies for me, he got away with treating people special, and then reintroduced the exact same scheme himself by paying out of his own pocket the likes of William Shatner, LeBron James, and Stephen King to have blue ticks. So he's created the same thing he's just got rid of, the thing he didn't want.
Yeah, but he's a bit of a showman. He just is. Yeah, he's a maverick in that sense. But I did. And there was a lovely interview with the BBC there lately again, that people saying, the cesspool of Twitter, and he asked for examples of the report.
He was hung out. That was just catastrophic. It really, really was, that interview. You've
got to bring your A game to an interview with Elon Musk.
And be able to back up what you say. He literally was able to give a perfect live example of everything he says about the mainstream media, that they say stuff without being able to back it up. And it was there evident in that interview. And then the BBC cut that part of the interview out, which further made his point.
He is incredible. In fact, I'm friends with his ex-wife, Justine Musk.
Yes.
Yeah, so I message her from time to time.
Okay, well, can you get me a blue tick? No, I'm only joking. I don't want one. The one thing I do have in common with Elon Musk, and I only really discovered it recently, is great concerns about artificial intelligence and where we're going in relation to that. And that definitely goes into the realm of cybersecurity, and anyone who has an interest in technology. The speed with which that is developing, and it will develop, is absolutely unbelievable. We are getting emails saying we can write you press releases. It's only a matter of time before there are, AI generated DJs on Spotify that will be able to target audiences in specific areas with local news and local information. I mean, it's going to change every area of industry really, really quickly, I think. Anyway, Kevin, I don't know what you think.
No, the hype is justified in a lot of ways. I try not to be either, saying, no, we're years away, which some people believe, from general AI, which is a worry here, where a machine replicates humans. But this latest, what's happening now in generative AI again with ChatGPT and others again is quite remarkable. Again, it's a language model is done, but it come back with amazing answers for you. But it's the code aspect that really got a lot of us computer scientists who don't work in AI necessarily day to day. We were shocked where you can draw a picture on a napkin of the way you'd like your app screen to work and just upload it. And then it'll give you the template, the code, which takes coding.
Yep.
Programming is as complex as it actually, it really takes years. But this comes back with the code. Again, which we thought a computer could never do that. We always knew computers can do speech to language translation, all other things, but to be able to develop code with a high level pronunciation and then say, no, correct that, add another button, remove that button. Now can you do this? It's hard to explain to someone non-technical. Then of course the AI, the videos of which are being done now, again, created by AI is superb. My son, when he was 11, was doing this course with Disney remotely through Zoom. This is 11 years ago, and he was about 12 at the time. And everyone else in the class was working for Pixar and Disney, and they were all 20s and 30s, and they were Jose in Brazil and everything else. But my son was precocious in that, but he gave it up because he's seen what was happening with AI. He said, my job will be nothing because it would take him days to do 2 or 3 seconds of animation.
Yeah.
And he's seen the writing on the wall, and he stopped completely and moved on. And he's been right now. He's shown me stuff that he can't believe, and he understands 3D and animation. And it's just that machine. And
music creation. They created a song using Drake and The Weeknd. And it is a banger if you're into that type of music. Really remarkable. Generated their vocals, generated the lyrics and the music. And I saw someone comment, and I thought it was quite true. Don't blame the AI. Blame the genre. If it's that easy to replicate and to create a decent track, the genre needs to look at itself. You were going to say finally there, Kevin?
Yeah, forgetting about is it the end of the world? Really, it's hard to know because people love the Cassandra complex, talking about a couple the apocalypse and the end of the world, and also the God complex, and thinking that an AGI will take over the world. It's easy for them to say, but my main worry about it is, and this has to change. There was a professor in the United States who someone typed into ChatGPT, tell me about any lawsuits against any professors for sexual harassment. ChatGPT came back with the name of this professor, saying he went to Canada to this conference and he was accused of this and this and this. And it was a complete lie. And there were references to articles, and it would look so genuine, like a proper article or, sourced article. The references, the newspaper articles were made up by ChatGPT. This guy was libeled forever on the web around the world. And it's happened again in another case in Australia again. So what you have is, now for years, Google and the rest have got away with saying, look, we're only the carriers. We're not the media people. We're not responsible for what people say. And we've largely gone ahead with that. But in the way that we do with a phone call, if someone rings you up on the phone and says, I'm going to murder you, Greg, we don't get all annoyed with BT and Eircom and say that they're responsible.
Yeah, I get you.
That's a bit like the internet for news. But now, once they started also removing articles because it was too left-wing or right-wing, because they are left-wing, right? Then they actually became newspapers, really, media outlets.
Publishers, yeah.
But with ChatGPT making up lies like this, I mean, there's going to be loads to.
But the problem is, there's a race to the bottom, though, because every big company, even Elon Musk, he's just hired in a load of people. You've got Microsoft doing what they're doing. You've got Google. They're rushing it out, and a lot of these problems haven't been ironed out. And then, of course, another case in Germany, a German magazine is being sued by the family of Michael Schumacher because they published, for what reason I don't know, a artificial intelligence created interview with Michael Schumacher, and this is where we're at. All right, Kevin, it's fascinating as always. Could do another hour easily. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay.
Take care of yourself and say hello to Mrs. Musk for us. Goodbye. Okay. Right. So do you want to hear the ad that's running before we take our own ads? The bingo number's coming up right now. Here's the ad.